Good evening, one and all, and welcome along to Season 2, Episode 126. This is an emergency summit to announce the big deal which came through last night. How are we all feeling, gentlemen?
Fucking fantastic.
Relieved, delighted, elated. Just pick one.
Yeah. Graham just nailed it in the coffin there. Honestly, man, I was on our good friend J Tux and Sid's podcast last night, literally at 1 o'clock in the morning. I was literally just watching, just about to go to my bed. I was like, I could not settle down and get to sleep. And I was like, I messaged Tucker. I was like, Tucker, don't suppose I can come on for maybe a couple of minutes and just get my initial reaction to this. And he's like, yeah, come on. And I'm like, great. So I came on and met a few other guys from Texas doing their own podcast and stuff like that. And everyone's so happy that the deal's done. It's like the stress, the focus can just be purely about football now rather than contracts now, which is fantastic to hear.
Yeah. Rich, give us your thoughts.
Can you hear me all right, first off?
Yep. All good, mate.
Oh, thank God for that. I was panicking. I thought people aren't going to be able to hear me. They're going to panic. Yeah, I mean, it's class, especially when you take into account tweets from one David Hellman saying that we're paying less than the Eagles are paying certain Carson Wentz to not even play for them. It's like,
honestly,
yeah.
that has got to be one of the best tweets of 2021. Easily. And me and Graham noticed this a lot. It's like a lot of Eagles fans are somehow, I don't know if it's bitterness or whatever it was, but they're coming and saying, oh, you're not going to be able to afford a defense. I'm sorry, but you have no say in whatsoever when it comes to salary cap or whatever on that. The fact is you're going to have to get rid of Ertz, Fletcher Cox, etc. Still, in fact, you're paying for a quarterback you don't even have, who's with another team. So, Eagles fans, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, the problem is they're Eagles fans, so they're dickheads. That's the problem. There's no known fear for that.
Yeah, so you can imagine there's going to be an awful lot of Eagles bashing tonight. I'm gonna, before I pass this over to Graham, as we always say, folks, don't be afraid to get in your comments. We are more than happy to throw this out to all of you tonight to get your comments in. We're, as a group of admins and mods of the group, we're absolutely delighted, and we've been chatting about this all day, but we'd love to get your opinion. Lauren there has definitely nailed it in terms of it's a cap-friendly deal, and we can defer salary into year 6.
And that was the thing we were most worried about, was about the cap. That was one thing we were worried about the most. It's like, how is this going to affect of getting other players in once we do get Dak nailed down to a longer term contract? Yeah. And somehow, some way, the Joneses have somehow managed to work out some magic rabbit out of the hat and actually managed to kind of, it's team friendly in a way, but it also satisfies Dak's needs. So fair play to Jerry Jones, Stephen Jones, and fair play. And I never thought I would say this. Fair play to Todd France for sticking to his guns. Because at one point, I wanted to punch that toss pot a couple of times because for ruining it last season, So, but hey, it's now over. We can move on. We can focus on pure football without any noise in the backgrounds regards to contracts. Yeah. So let's go.
That's it, Graham. I'm gonna put the numbers rolling through the bottom there. If you want to take us away and give us your thoughts on everything.
Yeah. So basically, there's been a lot of comparisons to the Patrick Mahomes deal today. They're running along the similar lines in terms of cap number. Obviously, Mahomes is a much longer deal, but Patrick Mahomes has been paid a number 1 salary, and I think a lot of this has to do with the fact that Dak was a 4th round pick, and he's only really just picking up a large wage towards the end of 2020 season into 2021. So, quick rundown of the numbers. 22.2 million this year, 33.2 next year, 44.2. So it's rising gradually. There's plenty of room for money to be converted to signing bonus. There's a bit of a new trend with this one in the terms of the last 2 years. Technically, Dak will receive a wage from the Cowboys in 2025. This is my understanding of it. There's still a little bit to be worked out here, but basically the Cowboys have an additional 2 years on Dak's contract where they can move money into those 2 additional years and still have Dak Prescott as QB. There's a certain amount of unknown around the 2025 season. Obviously, if Dak plays well during the 4 years, we'd love to have him. He will only be, I think he'll only be 32 at that point. Still loads of years left in terms of a quarterback position. So for those last 2 years, I think it basically will be whatever number is there plus his additional salary. So the Cowboys will be paying Dak Prescott a certain amount of money in 2025. That's my understanding of it. It's a prorated bonus of $13 million in 2025. And there's zero in 2026. Now, that makes me think that a lot of Dak's current contract will be moved to 2026. Hopefully, by then, the cap will be a hell of a lot larger, which means that we probably wouldn't even notice a lot of that because, like you were saying in the group earlier on, we've got the new TV deal to come in. As soon as the new TV deal comes in, you bet that cap number is going to shoot through the roof. So hopefully we'll have a couple, maybe even one Super Bowl by then. You know, you don't build dynasties that much anymore. I mean, Patriots are they're just they were just a 20 kind of 2010 phenomenon. Really, I don't think we'll see a team like that again. But there's certainly plenty of wiggle room. Like Paul was saying, they have got a team friendly deal in this one. The money really only becomes frightening in 2023. That's 44.2 million. Look for that money to be reduced because at that point, that will be worth 18.3% of the salary cap. That's a big number. So
that's a big number, yeah.
Look for that to be converted, I would say. Comparisons to the Mahomes deal, Patrick Mahomes doesn't have any guaranteed salary that I'm aware of past 2025. So you can see the similarities. But in overall terms, I'm happy with it because 2025 is 4 years down the line. Who knows what the NFL situation is going to be in 2025? Let's just enjoy having a QB for the next 3 years, and we'll worry about this because, like you guys, I'm fed up talking about it. To be quite honest.
I think we can speak in all of Cowboys Nation because even like so when I was talking to Talk and said and all that, early hours this morning, there's like. Now we can just focus on football and address our needs now, what we actually need. So see when it comes to this free agency now coming up to the draft. Now we have a clear focus now. There's no more talk about quarterbacks, none of this yada yada yada. Now we can actually focus on the things that we need to improve on the most.
Yeah, and we are going to have we will touch on. I saw one of the questions. I think it was from Austin there in terms of free agency, and if we can attack that, we will try and cover that a little bit in detail later on in the show. But Rich, in terms of Dak Prescott and this deal getting done, we have seen a little bit of hate. Obviously, you can't please everybody with this deal, but. You know, what have you to say about that kind of reaction that we're seeing from people that they're not happy about the deal?
It's going to happen.
Next is there.
Yeah. At the end of the day, like you said, you can't please everyone. There are some people who do things, in my opinion, quite simply, or they just simply say, you know what, he's not worth that amount of money, which is fair enough. That's your opinion. I think it's a very multifaceted situation. You need to take lots of things into account. But realistically, at the end of the day, this team has too many needs for QB to then be one of them. We have, what did we say before, like 29 free agents this year?
27 or something, 27, 29, is roughly about that, yeah.
Something like that. High 20s is ridiculous. So over half your roster.
It's a lot, and as the thing though, Rich. We are going to have to look into free agency, not just in the draft, and look at other people. Like, we're not going to replace everyone. We're not going to re-sign everyone. So there is going to be a lot of areas that needs to be covered and scouted a lot this season coming up.
Well, it's all of that. Plus, there's the case of you need to improve because of obviously what happened last season, especially defensively. And then there's the cap problems, which everyone's gonna, or more or less every team is gonna have problems. There's gonna be cap casualties across the board. We're already seeing them. Dan Bailey was literally just released. He's one of them.
I just saw that. Yeah, I just saw that announced on NFL Network that Dan Bailey's getting released. It's crazy.
Yeah. Purely cap casualty. It was expected. It was purely cap casualty.
Yeah.
But by getting this deal done, and in getting this deal done, they've signed a guy, and his first year, his cap hit has actually decreased by a significant amount. And this is before restructures of anyone else. This is before the expected restructure of Tank, of Amari Cooper, of anyone else. That gives you wiggle room, a lot of wiggle room to be able to do whatever you want. First off is obviously signing your draftees, but then it's going and hitting the free agency market. And with what we just said about cap casualties, there are going to be people hitting the market that wouldn't necessarily have hit the market were these issues not happening with the cap, with everything that's happened with COVID last year. So there's going to be better than average players out there that you can get probably for a lesser price, because they're not going to get much for a higher price anywhere else. Because everyone is going to flood to certain teams like the Bengals that have got decent cap room, but then they can't all go there. So you're going to get someone decent for a decent price.
Yep.
Yeah.
Here's the thing to add in as well. See the whole talk about when we're talking about like Russell Wilson and stuff like that. That would have cost us even a hell of a lot more what we've just done right now. Hell of a lot more.
Exactly. Everything in the round. Everything in the round is very, very good.
So don't get me wrong. Like, Russell Wilson's a fantastic quarterback without a shadow of a doubt, but the cap's more important right now. It's like you can't just have a quarterback and no one else. You know what I mean? So you need to kind of try and accommodate the whole team. So the way how we've like I said, it's like how the Joneses, Steven and Jerry and the rest of the team at the Cowboys have managed to do this contract in the way where it our worst fears is we thought it was going to destroy our cap space to sign players. It's actually the complete opposite. We've actually freed it up by a couple of bit.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm astonished, and I noticed not to kind of bring any negativity, but we're actually Ferlanti saying our friend Phil Lucas was not too happy about the re-signing. I was like, so I don't understand why, because when you really look at the stats and how Dak has developed as a player, he's a team leader. He's constantly growing, and you saw him through, like, even though we were only doing amazing as a team a whole, but as Dak individually, he was the best quarterback in early 2020, without a shadow of a doubt. The numbers he was putting up, like, you could say they were garbage yards or whatever, and that doesn't really matter. But the fact is, he was still has the ability to do that and still try and win the game.
Yeah.
That, to my eyes, is that it's got that leadership quality to go on in that. And now we've got that type of quarterback. We just need to help fix the offensive line and help our defensive side, and we are ready to roll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's always going to be
go on, Hikram.
There's always going to be people that aren't happy. Just in terms of the amount of money, and I think a lot of the time they see it as, well, we could spend that money elsewhere and draft another quarterback. But I mean,
I'll tell you what, Graham. I'll give Galbert the backup role. Give Blaine Galbert. Is it Gilbert?
Gilbert.
Garrett Gilbert. Yep. I would give him the opportunity to be the backup.
I mean, go and ask the
stands,
Jets how they're doing it quarterback.
Yeah.
Go and ask the Browns how long it took them to find a quarterback. And another thing, with the guy, see with this deal, it makes Dak the second highest paid QB.
Yep.
It's not the highest paid, second highest paid. And
Yeah.
see before Dak renegotiates, he won't be in the top 5. I doubt he'll be in the top. He might be in the top 10. I mean, think who's coming up. You've got
Deshaun Watson.
Mayfield.
There you go. There's the names right there.
I mean,
exactly.
That's a hell of a list, and straight away, you know their agents are going to say, right, so Dak Prescott's deal, let's start there. Because why would they negotiate for anything less?
And it's like you just said as well, with the television deals are coming in as well. They'll be waiting for that opportunity to really crank it up to the next one.
Yeah.
I mean, see, just off that list there, Josh Allen's saying, well, I made the playoffs this year, so I'll have more than Dak. Deshaun Jack.
I love the fact that's the reasoning behind it for getting more money.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong, Josh Allen is a good player. Don't get me wrong, but that is a lame excuse. Just because you just made it to the playoffs and maybe won a couple. So he's won a couple of playoff games. So,
I mean, go back not so long ago. Kirk Cousins, fully guaranteed contract. Where did he earn that? Where did Kirk Cousins earn a fully guaranteed contract?
That is still the most baffling thing I've seen is the amount of money has been thrown to Kirk Cousins, not just from the formerly known as the Redskins, now the Washington football team, but also the Minnesota Vikings. Is like the amount of money they've thrown at him fully guaranteed. I'm like, what are you guys smoking?
And you know what? Cousins is a perfect example because how's Washington's quarterback situation right now? Because they let one walk out the door.
Yeah, that's true. And Cousins was a good fit for them as well. He was a good fit for them as well. But
I mean, if you let your QB walk out the door, you roll the dice.
There was no way they were able to like try and negotiate with that, like being on the franchise tag 2 years in a row and try and come up with a long-term deal. That's when you know it's like that's kind of end of the road. It's like if you franchise tag a player 2 years in a row, there's no really that much secure of earning that longer term contract, and that's the thing we were kind of worried about. If we were to get Dak in that franchise tag, then the season after was pretty much going to say goodbye pretty much when you think about it, because it seems to be there's no that trust barrier between the organization and the agent to the player, if you know what I mean. So but aye, crazy. And this is a great point as well. Jimmy G. Don't forget about Jimmy G. Jeez.
Yeah. And just another point that Lauren threw in here as well. The Browns and the Ravens, they have Lamar and Baker who have extensions coming, and just whilst I'm thinking of it as well, is the Cardinals have an extension coming up for Kyler Murray. So, you know, this talk of Dak is the second highest paid and he's not worth it.
It won't be for long.
Let's see it in 2 years. Let's see it in a year's time. Dak might not even be in the top 10 in a year.
Well, next season will be Deshaun Watson's big thing, I think. He will get his next contract at the end of next season.
Yeah, in a couple of years, because of everything that's going to happen now with the cap, we're going to look back on this in literally a couple of years, probably before Dak is due his next deal. And we're probably going to look on it with 2020 vision and say, you know what, the Cowboys actually did this at the right time. Even with getting it done a year afterwards with the tag, because they got in before that awkward position right when the TV deal is about to come through, where teams are now, they're not going to know exactly how much they're going to have to deal with. But at the same time, QBs are going to go, oh, I can afford a lot more money because everyone is. But at the same time, they're going to have to fight that. That's going to really set the market. They don't want to set the market. Nobody wants to set the market. They're going to do it afterwards when they already know what it's like, because you're setting it with players like Allen, Lamar Jackson, Watson, everyone else. So then you can see what that's done in this body of work. It makes it easier for them to then go into negotiations next time. Because it's not like people like crappy players are going to be getting deals done around that time. They're good quarterbacks that are going to be getting those deals done. So it's actually potentially a very good position for the Cowboys, even though he's now the second most highest paid quarterback in the league.
Yep. And Graham, you made a point earlier is about the contract, especially. There's no trade clause or tag clause. We've got that fully. Like, we've got him guaranteed for 4 years, guaranteed. Like, so I'm over the freaking moon with us, honestly, over the moon.
The interesting thing, because the one main problem that I know, well, not the main problem, but the main gripe that specifically Brian had, a lot of other people had, and it's perfectly understandable, was that there was no talk coming from Dak.
Yeah.
And that was kind of something that I kind of liked, but at the same time, there's no talk coming in from him in terms of him saying, I absolutely want to be here. He wasn't in the news all the time saying, I want to be the Dallas Cowboy. He wasn't like sat there at the table saying, let's do a deal. But if you go and listen to the Cowboys media show last night, the immediate reaction from them, and it's towards the end of the show, and Nick Eatman was basically saying that Nick Eatman. He said he was seeing Dak for a TV special or something like that, some sort of thing he came down, and he didn't think he was going to get anywhere near him, and he went up and said, "Look, I'm not going to be doing my job if I don't ask what's going on." And he said, "Look, I can't tell you," but he basically just went, "Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be a Cowboy for life."
Yeah. And
then he's like, "Okay, I kind of got the sense something's going to happen," and then lo and behold, later on that day.
See, I'll kind of counter argue with your argument when it comes to like that being quiet type of thing. Like he was actually at the Cowboys facility for like, so James Slater pointed this out on Undisputed today, saying like the fact that Dak was in the facility training every day, getting better for the off season. That's a good sign. Like the actions speak louder than words, more to say. But you need to remember as well, Dak can't really officially say anything because it's kind of breaking code of conduct. Yeah. That's up to the agent, Todd France. God damn you, son. And obviously Jerry and Steven. So that's the only communication is between them. It's only the agent and that. And basically the only thing Dak gets to do is basically gets the contract from the agent where he thinks he's got the best deal available and lets Dak decide if he wants to sign it or not. And that's it, pretty much.
Basically, yeah. But that was that's what I meant, and that's where I was leading with it. Was he's been in the building the whole time. He's been doing exactly what he needs. He's been around the team. And it's not just because he's rehabbing, he could go and rehab elsewhere. But he's been doing it. He's been there where he needs to be.
As strikers, he could have went to a private facility somewhere differently. No. You want to be in the Cowboys building. That says a lot from the get-go.
But that leads in there. I know I'm getting ahead of myself here. The fact that he's turned around and him, because he probably at that time, even though Nick Eatman didn't know it, he knew that it was pretty much getting done, more than likely at that point.
Yeah.
He said, I'm not going anywhere, I'm a Cowboy for life.
Right, Lauren, okay, I'm sorry, but I need context for this. I really need context. Right, I need to message you.
Alright, come on. Info, get the inside track.
Lauren, we need gossip. Where's the gossip here?
It's true. Well, just I did want to touch on a point, and you know, during this whole time, as Rich just kind of said, like all I asked for was, you know, an indication that the deal was going to be done, and I always believed it would be done. But there was a lot of people in that camp like me that were there. This is not going to get done, and we shouldn't pay him, and you know, it's ridiculous that we're going to pay him this much money. You know, I've one point to make, right? And I wrote this down here on sheet in front of me, right? Randall Cunningham, Anthony Wright, Quincy Carter, Ryan Leaf, Clint Storner, Chad Hutchison, Vinny Testaverde, Drew Henson, and Drew Bledsoe. Those were the quarterbacks between Troy Aikman and Tony Romo. Did we really think we were going to go back to a situation like that?
There is no way in hell Jerry was going to go and do another 2001 to 2006. And Steven didn't want to do it either. You can bet your ass. Oh, God, no. It was always going to get done. Like you said, once you realistically looked at it, and knew what was happening with Todd France.
Oh man.
No.
Oh, shut the door. Oh, poor girl. I'm sorry.
You're fine.
I don't know what to make of that.
Right.
Sorry, Dave. I freaking love you, man. But god damn.
Come on, Dak. And when Dak's going to sign on this dotted line now, he's going to get 66 million. Like,
Yeah.
please. Set a brother out, help pick something. You know that's one. He can help make one hell of a date happen right there.
To go back to your list, Brian.
Yeah,
Sorry.
That's exactly why. That's exactly why they paid Dak Prescott. Do you know what? Why they paid him the going rate?
Yeah.
I understand he doesn't have a Super Bowl ring, and that is the specific reason why Patrick Mahomes got his 10-year deal.
Yep.
That's exactly the reason why he got his deal, because the Chiefs realize they've got one, and that only goes to enforce why the Cowboys need to keep Dak Prescott, because the Chiefs realize they have Patrick Mahomes, who is the right side of 25, who can be their guy for the next 10 years. They never have to worry about QB again for the next decade. How good does that all sound? Go and ask the Jets how good that sounds. You know, they've literally got a first-round pick being replaced by a second pick overall. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Potentially.
Utterly ridiculous.
And
I'm not saying that's Sam's
top 10 pick.
I'm not saying that's Sam's fault.
Honestly, I've really liked Sam Darnold. I actually do like Sam Darnold. It's just unfortunate he's with the Jets, unfortunately. They're just not a great organisation that comes to... They just see, quarterback, that'll solve everything. No. It's like, no, you need to build your foundations up, you dumbasses.
I brought up the teams with the most 2021 cap space just now. Listen to this list and tell me if any of them wouldn't have paid Dak the exact same money that we've just paid, right? The Jets.
Yeah.
The Jags.
Yeah.
They could use the first pick on something else. You could argue that the Colts would rather have Prescott over Wentz.
The Colts would jump on that with a heartbeat. They would, like especially with the O-line they've got, and they've got the foundations laid out. Now,
who's the Patriots starting QB?
Cam Newton.
Jared Stidham.
No.
Oh, is he no there?
They've nobody.
Cam Newton's not re-signed.
They've nobody.
They've nobody. They've Jared Stidham and a development guy.
The Jets, Pats, Colts, you could argue the Jags, they would line up to pay Dak Prescott the money we've just paid him.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Well, that just comes to show how much I'm aware about other teams in the NFL. Only care about the Cowboys.
Yeah. I just before we go further, I just want to touch on 2 points. In terms of Dak's contract history, right? Over the first 4 years of his contract, he earned $4 million, and was tagged last year and 31. For a guy who's played 5 years at the level of production we've had him at, to have only paid him 35 is a steal. So if you look at it in terms of the length of his contract, 9 years for $195 million.
Break that down. It's nothing compared. Like that's does that not kind of work out? Like if you were to kind of compare that to like Sir Rogers and something, does that not work under him or something like that?
Oh, incredibly.
Yeah.
So I don't get why people are so upset about this. I really don't.
Yeah. To that point, I was seeing all sorts of stories like I think that's why they didn't get Dak done last year, because he wanted paid for his first 3 years. He wanted that recognition for the first 3 years. I also saw that they signed Cooper, they signed Zeke, they signed DeMarcus Lawrence, Jalen before Dak. So it was almost like where's my money type idea. You know, but this is all just this is all history now. That's why it's such a huge day for the Cowboys, because this is all history.
It's a marvelous day. It's a marvelous day because that means have got the weight of the media off our shoulders. Well, not always the media, but the main hound dogs when it comes to contracts and stuff like that, asking the same questions you're sick of. We don't need to talk about that anymore. We can now just concentrate on what do we actually need for the team to improve and move forward and try and win that Super Bowl that we're all craving for. I
put my Cooper prediction to bed by getting this one right. Because I predicted before the tag.
You did.
So
you did.
The monkey's off the back.
Beers for Graham.
Yeah, the really, really nice subtext here, though, is that you need to take away from this as well, which is really good to see, even just for this year coming forward, is this deal got signed, even given what happened to Dak last year. So this team is more than happy to give him that amount of money over that short space of time, which probably helps him as well to that degree. But they're willing to give him this deal even with the injury he had. So obviously they have reassurances, and he has shown enough already to show that he's going to be fully go next season and probably for the next years.
There's two things you can take from that. Is one, we trust Dak, and two, Dak wants to be with us regard. Like that's the thing. Like there's all like Dak really wants to play for us, and the Joneses want Dak. So what more can you want? Like and it's I'm kind of maybe jumping all over the place, but what can we expect? We're talking about Dak here. It's just been a roller coaster of emotions.
We're excited. So, I think all four of us are delighted.
If there was one thing I think we can all agree on, is like this deal should have happened two years ago when we had the chance. Just before, should it happen before Zeke?
Insurance last year.
Yeah, so
that was an absolute deal.
That's the only thing that should have happened. It's like we could have got it, maybe even got it a bit more cheaper back then. Who knows?
Yeah.
But the fact is, when you just mentioned all about the numbers and the length of contract and that, when you break it all down in that, it's not that much. It really isn't. This contract he's got right now is quite a significant bit of chunk of money he's getting. Yeah, absolutely. But when you break it down with rookie contract and the franchise tag on top of that, I mean, I am more than happy for that to spend all the money, like the total amount what we've done for those production of those years to come.
It's even that. Everyone wants QBs to do a Tom Brady and take much less money, so that there's more cap to build a team around them. That's brilliant. Not everyone is going to have that view. Tom Brady is pretty much one of the only, if not the only person who has ever done it and done it successfully. So it's a very nice position to make, but you can't expect people to do it, especially in the sport that they play and in the industry that they're in, especially right before there's about to be a TV deal. I think the vast majority of people, certainly anyone other than Tom Brady, that would be in that position would probably do exactly the same thing, or anyone that's switched on it probably would. Especially when they're literally putting their bodies on the line. Go and have a conversation with Travis Frederick if you disagree with that. But when you look at everything else, then you look at that argument and you look at it going forward. Look at how it's structured. It increases moving forward as we move into the TV deal.
Yeah.
So actually,
it makes a difference to us.
Of the tax that it takes up may well shrink, not even stay the same. It may shrink.
Yeah.
Depending on how much it goes up. Even if it stays the same, you're not worse off. Yes, the cap's going to go down this year, but we're expecting it to go up because realistically, these companies, they're already more or less agreed on the vast majority of things. The TV deal is more or less done. Even with Disney, I'm not worried at all. Like I've said before, Dak had me convinced the end of his first season when he went toe-to-toe with Aaron Rodgers.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he went toe-to-toe with Aaron Rodgers and came this close. For the sake of his season, he came this close.
That solidified it for me as well, Rich. Like even more so, like just how he conducted himself in his rookie season. Thought we potentially have something special here. But what you said in that playoff game against the Packers, even though we came short in that one, he showed the amount, the drive that we've been craving for from a quarterback. And just when I want to point something out, like I know it's still Dak related in a way, but it involves in that player, and Valenti just made this point here. Are we going to trade Gallup for a pick now? Now that's now done.
We're gonna come to that in a second, Paul, because I just had a couple of things I was just going to say, and then we'll kind of we'll segue
it's definitely something we need to
this.
talk.
Yeah, but because I mean, Rich must be reading my mind, because two things I had to say were about the injury history, and obviously we've nailed that. This deal wouldn't have got done if the injuries were concerned. So put that to
exactly.
bed. And
this is the team that Jalen Smith. Let's not forget.
Yeah.
Listen, if they can rebuild Jalen Smith to actually play on the field again, I'm sure they can fix Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then the next one that I saw a lot of people throwing around this morning on Twitter about why couldn't he take a team-friendly deal? You know, he's not going to help his defense or anything like that. The guy got $4 million for his first 4 years. He deserved his money. I never had a complaint about the money that was being talked about. He deserves that. He's proven it. But as we say, look, we'll segue into this a little bit, right? As things stand, we're just over $1 million over the cap. Now, I just looked at this before we came on the program. That $1 million will be knocked off very quickly. Chris Jones is going to be cut. We're going to save $2 million, and we'll just be back over the cap. A few people have been mentioning this, and as Paul pulled up there in terms of trading Michael Gallup. Let's talk about Michael Gallup. For you guys, is Michael Gallup a trade candidate?
He's got a lot of trade value, I think.
Yeah,
exactly that.
I think for me, I really don't want this to be a case where we'll play him out to the rest of his contract, and that'll be a Byron Jones 2.0. I think there will be a team out there that will be willing to trade for him. I think, as much as I would love to keep Michael Gallup long term, love to, but there's no way we're going to able to. I don't think we're capable of keeping. Thinking like when you've got CeeDee Lamb's deal coming up in a couple of years' time as well, what do you do with that? And so you've pretty much got free. Like when you like the worst case scenario is like there's no way you can afford free wide receivers and high end money, plus your running back, plus your quarterback, and not a room for anything else. Essentially, you know. So there's going to have to be something, but I would expect some phone calls being made about the availability of a Gallup. Probably leading up to the draft or maybe after the draft if players are not able to select the player that they wanted or something like that, you know what I mean? Because don't forget this is a deep wide receiver draft coming up, and I know for a fine fact there will be some teams that will have their eye on some specific players that they might want, they might not get them. That's when you might expect the phone call. That's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah.
This is the thing, there's a couple of things, and some we've already mentioned, but like you said, just that wide receiver in this draft is pretty good. I don't think, personally, they're going to want to shop him. I think they will listen to offers that come in very seriously. So I don't think they will ideally want to trade him. I don't think they will look to trade him. But then at the same time, like you said, the draft is quite good in terms of wide receiver. What we said about cap casualties, there's bound to be people that are going at a decent rate as we move into and past the draft. So if you look at the likelihood of it actually happening, I think it's potentially more likely that we do end up in a Byron Jones 2.0 kind of scenario. But then you have to look a few years on ahead. Does it then come sort of full circle where you have, rather than looking at it as Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb, you then start looking at it as CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup. And then Amari Cooper becomes the trade value a couple of years down the line.
Potentially,
I know that's quite far out there, but it's like, if it doesn't happen now, and they want to keep him, and they don't want to lose him because he's good value. You don't want that to happen again. Maybe he gets tagged. Who knows? It's possible. Of course, it's possible. Like you said, he has good trade value. Do I think it's likely? I think it's less likely than it is likely, but not by much. I know that seems very on the fence, but it is.
If the question lies if we can keep Gallup somehow in a long-term deal, what would you guys say if it was a team like if all the things considering it doesn't like hit us too bad? I would say yes. I'd still keep him. Is what like.
I would be more than happy with those 3 wide receivers. I would be more than happy.
But if it was all dreamland, then yeah. But thinking realistically, I don't see it happening. And that's it pains me because I've had the opportunity to meet him through our sponsor. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Met Michael Gallup. Kind of his experience. Be sure to check them out. We'll put the advert up later on, guys. And so I've had a pleasure meeting him. Nice guy. He's so down to earth. Keeps his head down. Doesn't get into any trouble. Whatever than that. Like he's all that like outside of football is still marketable as well. And plus, he's got the NFL experience under his belt, and that counts more than drafting a rookie that might not lead to expectations.
Yeah. It's possible. I kind of hope it doesn't, but at the same time, like you said, for the reasons of Byron Jones, I kind of hope it does.
Yeah, I think Valente. If I'm on the same boat as you, Valente. Like, I would love to keep him, but I think our main focus is fixing our defense. That needs some serious addressing, especially on our secondary. And to be fair, there's a few parts in our defense that needs a lot of. I know you're rubbing your hands. I know what you're trying to say, Brian. But yeah.
No, we're going to come around to that because I mean, look, we all know we all have different parts. Like obviously, I'm a secondary guy. Paul's a defensive line guy. Rich and Graham are more the offensive line guys, and we'll kind of look at that in a second. Graham, if I throw this to you, right? If the phone rang on the first day of the draft and it was a trade for Michael Gallup, how low in the first round would you take a pick for Michael Gallup? Or would you try a scenario where you trade pick 44 and Michael Gallup to get back into this first round? Would you do it?
I wouldn't trade Michael Gallup for anything less than 64.
Yeah.
I think I go back to the discussion we had with Marcus, Bluff City. If there's going to be an offer for Michael Gallup, it needs to be a difference maker. Otherwise, you might as well just have Michael Gallup for the swan song. Because once you start talking 3rd, 4th, 5th round, you don't necessarily know if you're going to hit. You have a hit with Michael Gallup. You know what you have in Michael Gallup. I raised the point when we were talking with Marcus that say, for instance, the Jets were to offer a 2nd round pick for Michael Gallup, he instantly becomes their best wide receiver. Because
without a shadow of a doubt.
Exactly. Without knowing exactly what you're getting. And say they did take, I don't know, say they ended up with a Jamar Chase. You don't know if Jamar Chase is going to hit the ground straight away.
See, that was the point I was making. It's like the whole, like, we were lucky that CD Lamb turned out the way he's supposed to was. Like, we were lucky. Like, we were even lucky that we got him at number 17.
Yeah.
Everything kind of worked out in our favour that year, that draft. It really did.
Yeah.
But again, it goes back to what I kind of say about the draft. The draft's a gamble. But whereas and again, not every free agent or trade is always a guarantee, but at least you've got more I'm trying to find the right word here, but you've got more concrete evidence that it's proven.
You've got NFL film to grade them on.
You've got NFL experience, you've got more game film and against the best of the best in the league. So, I'm
exactly
with you. Sorry I had to put in there, mate.
I was expecting Mike to comment with this. I'm surprised he hasn't already, because this is one of his favorite things: players over picks. Whenever you're in this situation, players over picks.
So the comments are screaming in here at this stage. So let's
keep them coming, man. Keep them coming.
Let's dive headlong into free agency, and Paul, give us a couple of targets on the defensive line, either defensive end, defensive
Well, I haven't even got the
tackle.
list up. Give me a wee minute. Right, you do the offense. Let me get the list up, right?
Because I mean, we can expect a couple of restructures and a couple of extensions to come in now because Dak has obviously been done. We'll expect extensions, restructures to free up cap space. So I think we'll be playing a little bit in free agency, and maybe we might even play a little bit more than we normally have. I mean, I know in terms of secondary, there's a couple of guys I'm screaming for. But Rich, Graham, is there anyone you are looking at, or is there any position that you are looking at that you want?
Well, if I can, I'll just go back to Andrew Valenti asked the question in the group this afternoon. How is our cap doing right now? The reply was it's just over $1 million over the cap. But here's a couple of scenarios for you. Amari Cooper has no guaranteed money past 2022. So straight away, you take Michael Gallup's $20 million, convert that to guaranteed money, spread it out, and all of a sudden his cap hit becomes $7 million rather than $22 million.
Yeah.
So that's straight away, you've got $14 million to play with. Add in that, Zeke has no guaranteed money past this year. So there's another $9.6 million. All of a sudden, you're looking at the best part of $14-15 million to go and spend. Now I know that's I'm going to hear people screaming in the background. That's spreading money and moving money to further down the line. But are you really going to get rid of Zeke or Coop in the next 4 or 5 years? You're not. So you might as well keep them around.
Yeah. If you're going to be keeping those players, you may as well spread the money. Help yourself out now whilst the cap is an issue, because come those couple of years down the line, as we said, cap's going to go up. So get yourself the help. Exactly. Now. I think realistically, you can expect anywhere between probably 15 to 20 million just from 1 or 2 players. And Stephen Jones is one of the kings of restructures and creating cap room from converting money to signing bonuses. He really is ridiculously good at it. He does it all the time. It's one of the things I genuinely really admire about him and the rest of the guys in the front office. They are really good at it, at managing the cap. Since they were in cap hell before, they've been really on it, and they're really good at doing it. And I've no doubt they're going to be really good this year, and they're going to find wiggle room to go out and get players. Look at maybe some safety. But with some other guys for the secondary. Look somewhere else. Yeah. Maybe see if they can find some defensive tackle help somewhere. I hope so. I don't think it will, but there we go. But I'd be surprised if there's not restructures here there, and that's before cap hits. Cap casualties, like we said with Chris Jones. I know it's only going to give us $2 million, but it's something. It helps. Yeah.
So, Paul, if we throw it back to you, have you had a chance to look at your D-line guys?
Yeah, there was one player in particular, and I was watching the footage of him actually earlier today. Is from Baltimore, Yannick Ngakoue, like the defensive end.
Yes.
Yeah, so I like when you kind of look at it, like he's not going to be an expensive defensive end, is so to say. Like he had a really good production, but he's always kind of kept his name like kind of relatively low in terms of because the other guys in the Baltimore defense have always been just over the place, like just doing the exact same damage. The defense was pretty good, so that is definitely one guy I maybe look into, depending what we can offer and depending on the deal. But I think he would be quite a good fit. I think personally, cornerback wise, I've not really looked as much onto, but it was more so on the D end side. But in defensive tackle, nothing really has sparked up. Someone said to me earlier, before Ndamukong Suh, I'm like, no, I would never touch him with a barge pole. I'm sorry. Like, I know he just won a Super Bowl with Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but I've never liked the player. I just think he would just dampen the team spirit a little bit. I think if that's the right
He
way of
wouldn't be
seeing
a
things.
good
You know, so but
he's been fined a couple of times. There's been a couple of dirty things that he's done. Like there's been a couple of stamps. After the whistle, he might have stamped that out of his game. I don't know, but you have to prize him away from Tom Brady and Florida first.
Yeah.
There was I'm trying to look at see as well. I think former first rounder Solomon Thomas is also available, but people were asking me about him. I'm like, to be honest, like I've not really seen much of Solomon Thomas since he's actually been in the NFL. Like in comparison to his counterpart Bosa, like it's a night and day difference between those types of players. Like, to me, Thomas, like, I don't think he'll like if we get him on a really cheap deal, then yeah, potentially, maybe, but I don't really see it happening.
Is Thomas not more of a defensive tackle rather than defensive end?
He's like a hybrid of a Tyron.
Or is he a hybrid?
Yeah. So he can play the inside as a free tech, and he can move to the outside as a 5 tech and either side. So
okay.
But he's definitely not a pure nose or 1 tech. Or
I thought that alright. He's very lean.
Yeah. So yeah.
What's the name of that linebacker? I think it's for the Cardinals that everyone was expecting to get tagged.
Oh, wait a minute. I'll get the name right now for you.
Isaiah Thomas? Or Isaiah Simmons?
Devontae Campbell? Is it Campbell?
I think it's Campbell. He's not getting tagged.
Oh no, there was another player that got this. Well, this is the big news: is that Bud Dupree is not getting brought back to the Steelers.
No, too much.
But that'll be way too much. He will go to like the Colts or all the teams have got money to spend. Really, like I don't see him going to like. In fact, actually, Graham, you've got the cap numbers right now, don't you?
Yep.
What is the chances of him going to the Patriots? Just out of curiosity.
Sorry, remind me who we're looking at.
Bud Dupree. Because he's going to be a free agent because the Steelers are not going to sign him on.
So the Patriots have $66 million to play with.
They can sign him.
And by the looks of things, they're not. I mean, unless they trade for somebody.
They just traded today for an offensive tackle from Oakland today.
No, I mean in terms of like a big salary, like a QB.
Oh, right. Right.
I mean, I don't even know if the Patriots are in the stakes for a QB in the draft. You know, that might be their best shot. But yeah, so Patriots 66, Colts 44, Jets 67. I mean, the Jaguars $71 million to play with.
Mm-hmm.
The Jags need to be huge players in free agency, because see if I was a Jags season ticket holder and they had all that money sitting there and it's not being spent on talent, what is it being spent on?
Oh,
you know?
Rich, the name you were referring to is Hassan Reddick.
That's the one.
That's the one. Hassan Reddick, yeah. He's only 27 years old. He's only 27.
Yeah. People who wanted linebacker, like, I'm not being funny.
Another linebacker there that was brought up, and I just saw in the comments. I'll just see if I can bring it up here. So it was Kyle Van Noy, who the Dolphins. He was one of their big acquisitions last year, and they cut him. Mm-hmm. You know, I thought that was a surprise. So is he a guy you'd take if you could work a deal?
If we can work out a deal and it doesn't affect the cap too drastically, then why not?
Like I think it's a classic case he'll go back to the Patriots.
Probably. It might be. It might go there just for the swan song, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Don't we need to get another deal done basically with Gerald McCoy as well?
That was the DT I was going to mention. Like, I mean, obviously we have a $3 million cap hit for him in dead money anyway this year. All the indications are he wants to come back. So I think it's fait accompli for me.
Yeah, but it was a case of because they voided his contract because of the injury, because that was a clause, wasn't it? So they would need
that was it.
retailing everything, get everything redone, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
no, he's someone I'd definitely bring back because he's kind of the guy that could help with all the young defensive tackles, because we've a lot of young defensive tackles. Yeah, and obviously, Tyron Crawford is gone this year.
And don't forget, there's the chance of bringing Gerald McCoy back in as well.
That's what we're talking about.
We're
talking about Gerald McCoy.
Oh, sorry. I'm trying to look at this list here.
But
I can't do two things at once here.
Yeah.
That's fine. If they can bring back McCoy, get some experience in the secondary.
Yeah.
And then try and get some rotational guys, I think. For the defensive line, I'd be pretty happy. Obviously depending who they get. But I think that's probably the most sensible way to go. And given their usual approach of let people splash out first and then cream off everything that's left afterwards, this is probably the year where that's going to have the most effect.
Yeah. Like I think they're going to have to be a little bit more aggressive this year, because this team offensively is ready to win a Super Bowl. Defensively, it's not even close.
No. But
that's why they need to attack it.
Our offense is overcompensating to the lack of what our defense should be doing.
Yeah.
Like, we shouldn't be having to put 40 buggers up just to try and win a game by the scratch of our teeth.
Yeah.
Like, if we're winning by a 40 bugger, it should be by pure dominance.
Yeah.
Are you still a Clowney guy, Rich?
I would take Clowney. I would.
Free agent.
I would take him in a like a short-term deal, like a 1 year or something like that.
Like I saw him in the over the cap list, and I had to Google him, and there's no like I don't expect him to be tagged or anything like that.
No, I think he's going to be unrestricted.
One comment I saw today was Earl Thomas is still a name.
Oh, Rich, don't do that. Don't.
Earl Thomas has been that name so long.
Sorry, I'm just trying to find a comment here.
Here's one for you, for you, Brian. In the safety department. What about Trey Boston from Carolina? He's trying to be a free agent. No?
The two guys that I'm looking at for free safety, because what we need is a free safety. We have our strong safety. We have our guy who could drop into the box. The two names I'm looking at are Malik Hooker from the Colts and Marcus May from the Jets.
Malik Hooker will
May would probably.
Marcus May got franchised.
Did he?
Shit. Yeah, they picked up the franchise.
So the guy I'm looking for is Malik Hooker.
I think Hooker would be quite hard to get. I don't
think so, because he's coming off a lot of injuries. So I would imagine whoever picks him up is going to be, it's a 1 year prove it deal.
Right.
For whoever picks him up, because he hasn't played a full season from what I saw. No,
at all.
I'm always open to correction on this, but I think he's always had an injury at some stage during every season. But he's a kind of guy who can play that free safety role, that middle of the field, and that's what we as a team need. We don't have a guy, and I'm not going to say his name, you know who I'm talking about. He wasn't replaced last year because we tried Darian Thompson, who was an abject failure. We've tried Xavier Woods, a free safety, abject failure. Xavier Woods is a box safety. You know, we looked into things with Donovan Wilson, but Donovan Wilson is also a strong safety. And we drafted Reggie Robinson and tried to convert him to a safety, and he's going back to cornerback now. So this team needs a free safety.
Yeah, I think we need to stop converting players and actually draft the position. I think that's proven time and time. We tried to do that with Byron Jones, and we saw like he was not effective being in the safety position, like free safety, strong safety. He was not as effective. When you put him back into the corner, he had an absolute stellar of a year and got to the Pro Bowl. So just
thanks, Mike.
Just just a quick update for everybody. Looking at safety free agents, Justin Simmons, Marcus May, and Marcus Williams have all been franchise tagged, so they're off the market.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, straight away you look at 3 safeties getting the franchise tag. It's not to be overlooked. The safety position, you know,
and this,
we know that for sure.
yeah, it's a position we've not invested in since Darren Woodson was on this team. Darren Woodson and Roy Williams. You know,
there you go.
and I mean, as I say,
It's quite depressing when you think about it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. We still had the goat.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know, we could have done with an upgrade, but we never addressed it, and that's on the front office that they haven't. Hopefully, they will consider it this year.
Yeah.
I saw another couple of comments there coming in, and Rich and Graham, you know, I mean, I know you guys are crying out for an offensive tackle. If there was someone came up in free agency as an offensive tackle, would you consider drafting one or taking one?
No.
Or would you prefer to wait to the draft?
No, prefer to wait to the draft because teams don't let starting offensive linemen go. It's simple as that.
No. I disagree. The Raiders just let what's his name? They let what's his bloody name again? They just let him go. From the Raiders. Oh, what's his name again? Dave Jackson, guard.
Aye, tackles.
Oh, for the
tackles.
Yeah.
Because if you let a starting offensive tackle go and your QB gets killed.
Oh yeah. Sorry, yeah.
Because like if I was to build a team from scratch, offensive tackle would be my second pick. For me, it would be QB, offensive tackle, pass rusher. Like I see a lot of comments. You know, we have 5 starting offensive linemen. For how long?
Yeah,
that's the question.
For how long? Who's starting at left guard?
Yeah,
Williams.
I mean, you could argue that we do have. You could argue that we do have our 2 tackles in Smith and Collins, right? But
they weren't there last year.
They weren't there.
1.66 tackles there, in my opinion.
Yeah,
and even if say some miracle does happen and we do have Smith and Collins for the season, and I say miracle because Tyron Smith has not played 16 games for 6 years?
6 years.
7 years. So you do you do exactly what they did with Collins. You play Collins at guard until you need them at tackle. We could bring in a Rashawn Slater. We could bring in, say the miracle happens and we do get Sewell. Say he does drop to 10, but I think it's more likely to be Slater.
Tell you what though, I'd be very happy with Rashawn Slater. I'll be perfectly honest with you after watching his pro day.
Did anybody see the bench press?
Yes.
I'll tell you what though, I did have my concerns with Slater, but I feel a lot more happier with him now. And like me, like don't get me wrong, like I've played offensive line as well, so I know O line. Even though I talk about defensive line all the time, but I know my stuff about O line. But man, his feet movement is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like I was like, his kick back and steps. Oh, lovely.
My other argument for offensive tackle with our first pick is that the best form of defense is to keep your offense on the field. You keep your offense on the field by running the ball. You run the ball by creating holes for Z. You need offensive linemen to do that. I mean, think a few years ago, 2016-17, we were literally running teams to death. Didn't matter how good the defense was. We never saw them. We killed teams with time of possession, and I'd love to get back to that. And the only way we're going to get back to that is by controlling the offensive line.
Yes.
That's understandable.
And this is kind of the thing I've been missing all shows for the last couple of weeks, but it was something I was doing in my research. We haven't drafted an offensive lineman in the first round since Zach Martin in 2014.
Yeah.
We've
So how
drafted
wonderful.
lots of guys in the second round, in the third round, in the fourth round. We haven't had a first round offensive line player since Zach Marr.
I can't believe that's how long ago it was. I remember watching that draft that night as well.
And
that's how long ago it is. And I do think it's time we invested because, as I say, Connor Williams is in a contract year, who's your starting left guard. Conor McGovern, who could displace him, we're still not sure who he is, or what he is, or where he plays. And if, heaven forbid, Tyron Smith doesn't play 16 games, which is very unlikely he'll play 16 games, who goes out to left tackle? Because, there you go. That's why you bring in Rashawn Slater or Penny Sewell if Penny Sewell drops. But
Absolutely.
that's just my take on it.
I totally agree.
He fits well. This is one of the problems they've had with the running game, is because they haven't been as reliable on that side.
Yeah.
They've had to go right. It's become kind of half-dimensional. Zeke has only really been able to get a gap, either going through the middle or just to the right, because he's only been able to do that because there hasn't been a gap, because the athleticism is on the right-hand side, not the left, let alone the strength. You bring that in, you open it up again. It goes back to potentially back to what it was before, where Zeke can be running everywhere because there's gaps you can drive buses through.
Yeah,
this is one of the reasons which then flows into, like you said, controlling time possession, controlling the clock, because you're controlling the ball, you're keeping opposing quarterbacks off the field, you're scoring points. Now, as much as I agree with that, and I am that same thought, I'm still very much the best defense is a good defense. We still need to address the defense, but either which way, if they go cornerback or if they go offensive tackle in this draft in round one, it will be a very welcome addition to this team. But that is why you need a good offensive tackle. It needs to be addressed. It's been too long because they haven't hit in the people that they have taken. They haven't, like we said, we haven't taken someone in round one. And that's understandable, that's fine, but they haven't necessarily hit on the guys that they have taken. And now it's a problem.
Yeah. So I want to address this from what Valente said. If it was me, I would definitely not trade up. Not trade up, because I don't want to afford to lose out on draft picks for other positions that we need, because we're going to have to give up a lot for 5 places to move up. If so is there, because he might even be number 3 overall, he might be number 4. We don't know, because those teams might even be number 2. That's very true. We may never know, because everyone keeps saying, "Oh, it'll be Sunshine. It's going number 1, and blah 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 blah. It's going number 2," and we don't have a clue. We don't know. And the draft proves that every single year. Something always happens. It happened to us this year, last year, because we weren't wanted. It was all we thought. Oh, it's going to be defense. But we drafted the right receiver, but it came out to be a really good pick. And it proved me wrong big time. But
as you always say, Paul, like the draft is a crapshoot. So,
it is the ultimate gamble. No matter what position that you are, it's more so a gamble if you're trading up, and you're going to be either gaining a blue chip player or you're going to be gaining a failure, and you've gave it up. I'll give you the best example is Mitchell Trubisky. That's the best example. Moving up 1 place, but the amount of draft picks that Chicago gave up to give to San Francisco was ridiculous. Just to move up 1 spot. Like, they could have still drafted them. They could have still drafted them at the same position, but they were more worried about other teams moving up ahead. So that's the gambles you're pulling up against, and not everything pans out the way it's supposed to be. So, but for me, I wouldn't trade up. I'd be more than happy to sit at 10 unless we can maybe trade down if Slater's still there. But if Slater's there at 10, I would probably draft him, if I'm being perfectly honest.
I have to agree with Paul. To answer Andy's question, I have to agree with Paul, because you don't necessarily know if Slater is going to be 5 picks better than if Sewell's going to be 5 picks better than Slater. The draft is a lottery at the end of the day, and also to move up to 5, you're going to have to convince the Bengals that they don't need Penny Sewell, and to get into the top 4, you're going to have to convince the team that they don't need a QB. because you're looking Jags, Jets. I mean, I've seen ridiculous suggestions that the Dolphins take a QB. I mean, we've not even talked about that. And the Falcons are highly staged to take a QB to replace Matt Ryan. So straight away you're going, what do the Bengals need to give up Penny Sewell? And that's going to be a big price.
It's funny that you mentioned. It's kind of funny that Lawrence just mentioned the Eagles here, how they've moved up to get Wentz and stuff like that. It's like I don't even think they can afford to do anything right now.
They can't.
They can't.
They can't.
They are royally up.
Is with picks.
Yeah. It is. But Rich, give us your opinion. Would you trade up to 5 for Penny Sewell?
No, I'm very much generally sit where you are and make your pick. Unless you've got someone in mind that you have to go and get them, and it's pretty much a quarterback. Unless you've got that one person you're going to go at that, like, they're going to make the big difference. It's going to push us over the edge. 9 times out of 10, that's a quarterback. Then you go get that person. Then it's acceptable because you're going to have to give up the draft or the capital, be it draft capital, be it players, be it a mixture, to go and get them. Now, Mike has came on this weeks and weeks ago and said he sees potentially 5 quarterbacks going in the top 10. It's entirely possible. And it's not just Mike saying that. There are plenty of draft pundits out there that have started saying that the amount of quarterbacks they think are going to go in the top 10 is going to climb up. This is before we see any potential teams that you're not necessarily expecting to take a quarterback trading up, like the Eagles. Maybe the Patriots will pull a crazy one. We don't know. It is a complete crapshoot. You don't know who's going to fall. Even if Sewell does go, if quarterbacks still come off the table or other positions come off the table, that pushes Slater down. And even if those two go, it pushes cornerbacks down. Because you can't have all of those kinds of people go in 10 picks. You can't have quarterbacks go and cornerbacks and offensive tackles to the point where you're like, oh, what the hell are we going to do now? There's going to be someone. There's going to be a good addition at number 10. Is it worth giving up draft capital to move up and get someone that's slightly better? No.
Yeah, I think this is going to be one of those drafts where it's literally we're waiting to see what everyone else does, and we're just going to see, okay, is Slater going to be there? Like I think we might have a little bit of a question within the Joneses where, say for example, Satane or something like someone like one of the top corners is still there, and there's Slater. Well, Sewell will be gone, I reckon, for definite. He'll be within one of the top 9 teams, but I reckon, like, if there was Slater and one of the top cornerbacks that somehow managed to drop as well, that's when you're going to have what we're going to do here, because, you know what I mean?
So I'm going to launch a grenade here.
You've got a grenade coming?
I have a grenade coming now, right? We've mentioned quarterback, we've mentioned offensive tackles, we've mentioned cornerbacks.
Yeah.
We have not mentioned the 3 top wide receivers and Kyle Pitts.
No, it's not happening. It's not freaking happening. I'm sorry. Like
the board is going to fall to us, and we are going to have options that we can trade down.
We can trade down.
Pick who we want.
Well, here's the scenario here, Brian, when it comes to wide receivers, right?
Yeah.
There's definitely teams out there that will be gagging for a wide receiver in this draft, right? But
Eagles.
we're not in a position to have one right now. We've got a great wide receiver core right now, and I don't see us drafting Pitts. I know he'll be a blue chip player. I just don't see it because we just gave Blake Jarwin that massive contract, for him.
Yeah.
So I don't see why we need to draft him unless it's just Jerry being Jerry, I suppose. But what I could if there was a case scenario where there'll be a team behind us that want to move up to where we are at number 10 to get the wide receiver they want, and we'll get more picks back plus whatever position that they had, and we might even who knows, we might even get Slater still, who knows.
Yeah.
It just depends. Like I said, everything's just a pure gamble when it comes to the draft night. It's absolute anarchy, but I freaking love it.
There's 2 points here, and I'm going to address both of them. So Andrew is saying surely we've got to take whichever of Farley or Sertan is on the board.
Oof.
And I'd counter that with the point here from DJ Dog, who is saying to us offensive tackles are highly coveted. And we've kind of gone over the offensive tackle thing. We're nearly flogging it to death at this stage. So I would not rule anything out. The only thing I'm ruling out at the minute is quarterback.
Yeah,
we're definitely not drafting.
Yeah, we can put the dust settled in that one. No talk of Zach Jones or anything like that.
I will add an asterisk to my point. If the phone rings and we get a fantastic offer for 10, I'd love to take it. I mean, as much as I want offensive line help, if we can move down to the late teens and add more picks, you can't pass that up, especially with the way the defense is sitting.
Yeah,
I mean,
it would have to make sense.
Yeah,
like it would have to be like, see, I don't know. I'm just trying to think of an example here. Like if there's a team that has like 2 second rounders and they have like 2 first rounders or something like that, like they would need to move. They would need to move up substantially to the capital. I don't know. Is that the right word? The draft capital? Like
capital. Capital.
Yeah. The kind
it would need to be picked this year.
Yeah.
Oh, it's got to be this year, Rich. Yeah, absolutely.
To come up, I think there's a possibility, and it's a relationship which has always worked well for us, is the Patriots might try to come up to 10 to draft a quarterback. We've always dealt well with the Patriots. It's been very good picks. So if they offered us their second round pick on top, it's something we could definitely look at. And you still have the potential that you could get one of the cornerbacks or Rashawn Slater or one of the other offensive tackles.
Well, I would love to see
that. You're looking at safeties in second as well.
Yeah, and that's the thing. There is kind of that sweet spot in and around picks 40 to 50 where you will be picking up. You potentially have, say, JC Horn, who a lot of people are loving, Eric Stokes, Tyson Campbell, and then some of the safeties are all in play around picks 40 to 50, which we could then end up with 2 picks in that range. It helps you out a hell of a lot in the secondary.
Here's a couple of scenarios for you with 10. 10 is the sweet spot before the Giants, who need wide receiver, who get rid of Golden Tate. San Francisco were bereft of offensive talent with injuries. They were depleted with injuries. The Chargers could use wide receiver help, in my knowledge. 10 is a sweet spot to get rid of, to get ahead of all of them. So see if somebody falls to 10.
Yeah,
the phone has to ring. It has to ring.
Yeah,
I would imagine so.
Because they'll know, because they know our position when it comes to our needs. Like, but they might think of the other teams that may be the place behind them. It's like, we don't want to take that chance and lose potentially this particular player that we really like. So because they know, like, especially for wide receiver, like, they know we're not after one in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
As far as I know.
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah. I'm sure we said that before Stevie Lamb.
That's kind of one of those scenarios that the teams do play out though in their draft preparation. Is you know, they have some of their scouts who will scout teams, and they will be kind of in the weeks leading up. They'll be kind of going through mock drafts and saying, right, you're taking these teams, you're taking these teams. You identify their needs and identify draft scenarios for us. I mean, I've heard it from Broadus on 3 or 4 occasions that, you know, over the years on the draft show, where he explains how that happens. And it's just a sweet spot for us. But, you know, we need to do our homework and identify who are the potential teams that will want to come up to 10.
Mm-hmm.
But before we do wrap up, I did see this question pop into the window, and it is something I did want to address, especially given we now have Dak re-signed. We currently have 4 quarterbacks on the roster. So we have Dak, we have Cooper Rush, we've Garrett Gilbert, and we have Ben DiNucci. Graham, I'll kind of ask this to you because you know McCarthy more than anyone. He always seems to draft a quarterback every year.
Yeah.
Do you think he'll do it in the late rounds?
I wouldn't say every year. I think of the three backups, Ben DiNucci is probably the front runner because he's a McCarthy guy.
Yeah.
There are times when the Packers have taken somebody and they've just kind of fizzled out. So I don't see any real point in them taking DiNucci and then taking somebody else, especially when it could be spent on a corner.
Yeah.
There's, I mean, if you're taking a QB past the third round, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but if you take a QB past the third round, he's seen as a project, even though Dak was taken in the fourth. But you get what I mean. Like they're not seen as blue chip talents; they're seen as projects. So I don't see the point in bringing in DiNucci and then bringing in a replacement for DiNucci and going on over and over and over and over again. You need to give DiNucci some time. So I would say that they will stick with
Sandy
DiNucci.
Samuel is a good shout.
Yeah. So, Rich and Paul, I'm going to throw this one over to you. Obviously, as I said, we have four quarterbacks on the roster. Dak's not going anywhere. So, what would you do with the three of Gilbert, Cooper Rush, and Ben DiNucci? Would you look to trade, cut, or keep all four?
I'd be tempted to keep him at least for a while for camp bodies, but then it's like, well, realistically, Dak needs some practice time, even though he's a gamer, he needs to get those reps. So I would probably be tempted to try and shop one or just let one go, see if he makes it to the practice squad, see what happens.
Yeah.
Realistically.
Was there not talk about Brent Huntley at one point? The former Packers backup QB coming.
I think we talked about him with Marcus, didn't we?
Yeah, I think I was listening to the show from last week. Yeah,
they were in the same mold. Yeah, get that.
Very similar in a way to Dak, but I think that would be quite a good backup. To be fair, but
he would be a backup, but he's bounced around the league a lot.
Yeah,
I think he was in Seattle last. It was a high pick. You know, they spent
second round
pick. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was Cleveland.
I don't know if I'm completely brain farting here. What's happening with Dalton?
He's
free agent.
Free agent.
Yeah, but nobody's signed him, have they?
No.
Free agent.
Not
It's
yet.
not open yet.
I think we just kind of took it as read that if I think taking Dalton for $7 million was kind of a luxury spend. And
we definitely got money, but guaranteed out of him. We got our money's worth out of him. We still did a job.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But only because Dak went down. And I think it's generally accepted that if your starting QB goes down, your season's finished. So we might as well just roll with DiNucci, in my opinion. And spend the $7 million on a corner, for instance.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because the thing is, we're in the position, and I did check this before we came on, is that both Rush and Gilbert can be cut for no dead money at all. That dreaded phrase. So you would be saving some money against the cap. Not much, but they can be cut.
Yeah. If it was me, I would keep DiNucci and Gilbert.
Yeah.
If it was me, like, I don't know what it is about Cooper Rush. I just,
You made the point.
Ginger.
I think you made the point last week, Paul.
No, nothing to do with that. No.
Gilbert came in and flashed. Flashed against Steelers.
There was something there about him that I thought it was exciting to watch. Like, and he had a lot of fight in him. Like, he had a point to prove, and I loved it. So if he can do that and just be there as the backup role, then great, fantastic. You know.
So before we pay the bills, any final points you gentlemen would like to make?
Super Bowl.
No, to sum up, I think I'm just delighted that we can get on to talking about other things.
Exactly, mate.
They've kind of Dak's gone high, the Cowboys have gone low, and somewhere they've met in the middle. I'm not too concerned over the higher number that we could have got him on last year. At the end of the day, what we're talking, maybe $6 or $7 million. It's not, in the grand scheme of things, it's not a great deal. You know, we've got our QB for the next 4 years. There's a no trade clause. Don't care about that because we're not going to trade him. No franchise tag clause. We'll deal with that in 4 years. But if he comes in, ends up with a ring on his finger, they're not going to let him walk out the door anyway.
Yeah.
Paul, any final thoughts?
I'm just glad that we can just bury this whole hatchet of this scenario of quarterbacks down the drain for the next 4 years. So, and now we can actually have our quarterback purely 100% focused and try and get us to the Super Bowl, and without having to worry about financially, like things outside that as well. So I'm just over the moon in regards to that, and I'm just want us to kind of like move on, focus on our needs, fix the O-line, fix our defense, and move forward and try and get to the Super Bowl. That's it.
Rich, give us a final thought for all the haters who are not happy.
Dallas forever, Eagles for never.
Funny that you mentioned it. Just before
He tossed him left. He tossed him left and right.
it's funny that you mentioned the Eagles here. Like it was me and Brian and I were talking this before you just joined, Rich, before we even started the show, folks. Is that Eagles fans have been commenting on the whole Dak Prescott deal, saying, you cannot afford anything, I was like, well, you guys cannot afford jack shit, because you are like, was it 35 million at least, Brian, over the cap?
Yeah.
So that means they're going to have to lose or restructure or cut some big name players in that squad just to even make room for players to sign in the draft. So Eagles fans, get it up, ye.
My closing comment will be this: the Eagles are paying more for the Colts starting quarterback than we're paying for ours.
Yes. Hallelujah. Paul, I'm going to get you to give the shout out to our sponsor. I'll just pull it up here for us.
Sure, no problem. Let them
so there we go.
Let them go. There we go. So guys, as you may know, this 2021 season will be going ahead as usual. So be sure to go and check out cowboysexperience.com for the ultimate meet and greet, tailgate and game day experience where you get to meet former Dallas Cowboy players, cheerleaders, and actually some current players as well within the roster, and get meet legends like Sir Drew Pearson, Ed Tuttle-Jones, and many more. So if you book with Cowboys Experience, use the discount code at UK Cowboys and you receive a free gift. And I will pass it on to Rich for the opening closing line for that. What is it?
Don't be a clown, get free stuff.
Yeah, that's it. Don't be a clown, get free stuff.
And if you're lucky, you may get one of these swanky polos as well.
There you go.
So a big shout out to...
You just want to give a shout out to our other sponsor.
Yeah, maybe Silver Effects could look into a Don't Be a Clown t-shirt. Just putting that out there. If you would like some Silver Effects, some UK Cowboys merchandise, head over to the website. I certainly know that Jamie's had a punt into this stuff. We saw our resident model Lauren giving a lot of good content to the page. I think he's dabbled in a hat, a jacket, and a t-shirt. I saw Lauren. Maybe you can confirm that for us. But certainly he looked delighted with his stuff, and we want to see an awful lot more. If you've gone to the site, bought a couple of things. Put them on the page. We'd love to see it.
Yeah. Official petition for a "Don't Be a Clown" T-shirt starts right here, right now.
I'm sure we'll cut you some kind of deal, Rich. We'll talk to our people and.
I'm petitioning for a chocolate pudding T-shirt. That's all I'm saying.
I'll get one myself, just for me. But if other people want it as well, if that's what people want, like, I'll have a conversation with Andy. I don't mind, honestly. It's okay.
And also, don't forget as well, folks, draft day, we'll be doing the 24-hour... sorry, Brian. Do I bring that back up?
Yeah.
both of us were trying to do it at the same time there.
Yeah.
So, as you may know, we posted up this not that too long ago. We're going to be doing a 24-hour draft show. All in aid for the NHS. So, we're going to have an amazing amount of people coming onto the show. Names will be revealed at a later date, folks, but honestly, it's going to be a show. You're going to be like, we want everyone to be involved. Come on to the show, like, get the comments in, ask questions. But we reveal who our special guests, all in due time. But what I will say is, it's going to be freaking amazing.
Yeah,
this is going to make every other sort of like fan-based podcast just be like, screw it.
They're
going to throw in the towel. I honestly think that with the lineup that
I'll go so far to say we'll be better than Sky Sports coverage. We'll have guests better than Sky Sports.
Yeah.
So
he's not wrong, folks. Believe us, he's not wrong.
We are not
before
joking.
We go, obviously the team will be back on Thursday night with Mike. I think is it myself, Paul, and Graham?
I'll be on Thursday. So guys, usual time, we'll be back to normal schedule. Obviously tonight was a special one-off because the Dak announcement, but normal resume on Thursday, 9 p.m. UK, 4 p.m. Eastern. Oh, sorry, 1 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. There we go. Good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Get the times right. Yeah, so be sure to come back as we discuss more draft talk, and I think we're doing our actual first mock draft.
Our mock draft,
Mock draft.
Yeah, so we're doing our first mock draft. So be sure to come in, join in the fun, and we'll see you guys on Thursday.
See you next time.
Good night, one and all.
See you guys.